Tom has been my neighbor for nearly 15 years. Every morning, like clockwork, he'd go for a walk around the block, then sit on the steps of his porch, take off his old sneakers, and smile at the maple tree in his yard, as if it was growing old right alongside him. This year, Tom turned 72. But if you met him, you'd probably guess he was in his early 60s. His back is still straight, his eyes still bright, and the best part? He always has a story that'll make you laugh. I remember asking him once, half joking, "What's your secret to staying so sharp and happy all these years?" Tom chuckled and said, "If you're 70 and you can still climb a set of stairs, remember what you had for lunch yesterday and cook your own bowl of soup. You're doing just fine." Back then, I smiled politely. But as time passed, I realized how deeply true his words were. At a stage in life when many people start to feel like the world is moving without them, it's the small things, the quiet victories, that truly matter. The ability to walk up the stairs without gasping for air, the joy of recalling yesterday's lunch, and the conversation that came with it. The strength to stand on one leg for a few seconds or to laugh, really laugh at something silly. And that's exactly what this video is all about. You see, winning at life at age 70 isn't about big houses or bank accounts. It's about being able to do 6 simple things that show your body, your mind, and your spirit are still very much alive. These might seem small on the outside, but inside they're massive victories. So here's a little challenge. As we go through each of these 6 signs, take a moment to reflect. How many of them can you still do with ease? And if you can still do most, or even just a few, then trust me, you're not just aging well, you're thriving. Let's begin. Number 1, climbing stairs without losing your breath. Have you ever noticed how something as ordinary as climbing the stairs can suddenly feel like a quiet victory? It might not seem like much. You're just heading up to your bedroom or grabbing a sweater from the closet upstairs. But if you can still climb a flight of stairs without stopping halfway to catch your breath, that's something worth celebrating. Seriously. I remember visiting my Uncle Ray a few months ago. He's 74 now. His home has a beautiful little staircase that leads up to the sunroom he built himself when he retired. That day, the elevator in his building was out, and I offered to wait with him for someone to fix it. But he just looked at me, grinned, and said, "I didn't come this far to let a few steps stop me." And up he went, steady, breathing calmly, and even cracking a joke about how the stairs were doing him a favor by burning off the pie we just had. You see, climbing stairs is more than just moving from one floor to another. It's a real test of your heart, lungs, and leg strength all working together. In fact, doctors often call it a hidden fitness test because it's such a natural part of daily life, but it reveals so much about your overall health. By age 70, your aerobic capacity, basically your body's ability to use oxygen, may have dropped by up to 40% compared to your 30s. That's a big shift. But here's the good news. The very act of climbing stairs can help slow that decline. A study in Europe had seniors over 60 climb 3 flights of stairs. The goal? Finish in under 90 seconds. Those who did were significantly less likely to develop heart problems in the next 10 years. So yeah, stairs aren't just steps. They're a glimpse into your future. And here's a common mistake people make. They avoid the stairs because they're afraid of getting tired or winded. But what happens over time is that avoiding the effort actually makes you weaker. Muscles shrink, the heart gets lazier, and suddenly, one flight of stairs feels like a mountain. That's why every step matters. Literally. Even if it's just one floor, even if you take it slow. If you're still climbing, you're still winning. So the next time you find yourself choosing between the stairs and the elevator, maybe take the stairs on purpose. Let it be your own little victory lap for the day. Because the ability to move on your own terms, that's something not everyone has. And if you do, hold on to it with both hands. Now, speaking of holding on, there's something else that slips away more quietly than muscle strength, but just as important. Let's talk about your memory and what it means when you can still remember what you had for lunch yesterday. Number 2, remembering yesterday's lunch and the conversations around it. You know what's underrated? Being able to say I had a turkey sandwich yesterday, with a little mustard, not too much, and some potato salad on the side. And then maybe even adding, "Oh, and remember what Sarah said at the table? I'm still laughing about it." It sounds like nothing, but it's actually everything. When we think about memory, we often jump straight to the big things. Birthdays, anniversaries, old family stories. But remembering something as simple as what you ate for lunch yesterday? That's a real sign your brain is still wide awake. I remember a Sunday lunch with my grandma not long ago. We had soup and salad, nothing fancy. The next day, I called her just to check in. Before I could even say hello properly, she said, "You left your napkin on the table yesterday, right next to your empty bowl. You really like that carrot ginger soup, huh?" I couldn't help but laugh. Not only did she remember what we ate, she remembered where I sat and how much I enjoyed it. That's the kind of detail most people overlook. But it matters, because our memory isn't just about storing facts. It's about staying connected. Connected to people, to moments, to ourselves. Studies show that about 1 in 9 adults over the age of 65 experience some form of memory impairment. That's a little over 11%, not a small number. But here's the hopeful part. Memory is like a muscle. The more you use it, the more it stays with you. Every time you remember what you had for lunch or who said what at the table, you're giving your brain a gentle but important workout. And here's something we often forget. Memory is tied to other parts of our health too, like nutrition, sleep, and social connection. Foods rich in omega-3s, berries, leafy greens, and even a cup of green tea can help keep your mind sharp. So can puzzles, reading, and simple conversations with people you love. The biggest mistake? Thinking forgetfulness is just part of aging and not doing anything about it. The truth is, you can keep your mind sharp by staying curious, engaged, and present. So if you still remember what you ate yesterday, who you talked to, or even a little joke someone made, give yourself some credit. That's not just memory, that's vitality, that's awareness. That's you staying rooted in your life in real time. And speaking of staying rooted, there's something else that tells us a lot about your strength and awareness, even if it looks like a silly trick at first. Let's talk about balance and why standing on one leg might reveal more than you think. Number 3, balancing on one leg for 10 seconds. Let me ask you something simple. Can you stand on one leg for 10 seconds without holding on to anything? It might sound like a little game you'd play with your grandkids, or something you'd see in a yoga class. But don't let the simplicity fool you. This small test says a lot about your overall health. Balance is more than just physical. It's your muscles, your brain, your reflexes, and your inner ear all working together at once. And believe it or not, the ability to stand on one leg is actually linked to how long you might live. There was a study published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine. They followed people in their 70s and asked them to stand on one leg for just 10 seconds. Those who couldn't do it were nearly twice as likely to face serious health complications in the next few years. Now, I know that sounds a little scary, but it's also empowering. Because this is something you can test yourself and improve right at home. I remember visiting my Aunt Diane not too long ago. She's 76 now, and she told me that every morning while brushing her teeth, she lifts one leg and balances for a few seconds. At first, she wobbled like a leaf in the wind, but after a few weeks, she was holding steady, one hand on her hip, grinning like a teenager. "It's silly, but I feel strong when I do it," she said. And she's right. Because balance isn't just about standing still, it's about having the strength and awareness to respond when life tries to knock you off center. A slippery sidewalk, a bump in the hallway, a sudden turn. If your balance is strong, you're less likely to fall. And that means more freedom, more independence, and more confidence in your everyday life. One common mistake people make is assuming balance only matters to athletes or dancers. But in truth, it's one of the most important skills to hold on to as we age. So if you're brushing your teeth or waiting for the kettle to boil, try lifting one leg. Start with 5 seconds, then aim for 10. Do it safely, maybe near a counter or a chair just in case, but give it a try. It's one of the simplest ways to check in with your body. And here's the takeaway. If you can stay upright on one leg for 10 seconds, you're standing on a foundation of strength. not just in your legs, but in your life. Now, while balance shows us how steady our bodies are, there's something else that reveals just how resilient our hearts can be. Let's talk about laughter, and why a good deep belly laugh might be one of the best health habits of all. Number 4, laughing like you mean it. You know that kind of laugh that comes out of nowhere, where your belly shakes, your eyes water, and you can't catch your breath for a second? If you're still having moments like that, you're doing something really right. We often think of laughter as just something fun. But honestly, it's one of the clearest signs that your emotional health is still strong. Because to laugh, really laugh, you need energy, perspective, and the ability to see light even when life feels heavy. I'll never forget my Grandpa Joe. He had the roughest hands, a stiff back, and knees that creaked louder than the floorboards. But he also had the goofiest grin. Every Sunday after church, he'd sit in his old armchair and tell stories from when he was a kid, half of which probably weren't even true. But the way he told them, with that twinkle in his eye, had all of us in stitches. Even as he got older, even through tough health scares and losses, Grandpa never stopped laughing. One time, after a minor surgery, the nurse asked him how he was feeling. He looked her straight in the eye and said, "Well, I'm still breathing. That's half the job done, isn't it?" The whole room burst out laughing, including the nurse. And you know what? That moment probably helped him heal faster than the medicine. Science agrees with that too. Research from Stanford University found that laughter actually reduces stress hormones, boosts the immune system, and even increases your body's pain tolerance. In other words, every chuckle, every giggle, every full-body laugh, it's like a little health tune-up for your body and your soul. But here's the mistake a lot of folks make. They stop surrounding themselves with things that make them laugh. They stop watching their favorite comedies, stop talking to the funny friend, stop sharing silly memories. And over time, that absence of laughter starts to wear down your spirit. But laughter isn't just joy, it's resilience. It's your way of saying, life may be tough, but I'm tougher. So go ahead, watch that old sitcom you love. Call the friend who always tells the worst jokes. Laugh at your own mix-ups. Even tell a few tall tales of your own. Because if you can still laugh like you mean it, your heart is still wide open. Now, laughter connects us to joy. But there's something else that keeps us connected to each other. And it might be even more powerful. Let's talk about friendship and why staying socially connected could be one of the best things you ever do for your health. Number 5. Maintaining meaningful friendships. Let me tell you something I've learned from watching the people I love grow older. Having someone to share a laugh with, a story, or even just a quiet cup of coffee, that's what keeps the heart full. We often talk about eating well, exercising, and staying sharp. But staying socially connected? That's just as important, maybe even more so. I remember my neighbor, Miss Linda. She was 80 and still hosting her monthly book club, even when her eyesight wasn't great and her knees made it hard to get around. But she never missed a meeting. When I asked her why, she smiled and said, "Because these girls know my stories, and I know theirs. We keep each other going." And she was right. Friendship isn't just nice, it's necessary. According to the National Institute on Aging, nearly 1 in 3 adults over 70 feel significantly lonely. And it's not just a sad feeling, it actually increases the risk of heart disease, depression, memory loss, and even early death. That's heavy, but there's also a beautiful flip side. People who keep strong social ties tend to live longer, feel happier, and bounce back from illness faster. You don't need a huge circle. Just a few people who check in, who remember your birthday, who make you feel seen. Maybe it's your old army buddy. Maybe it's your childhood friend who still calls once a month. Or maybe it's someone new from church, your walking group, or even a neighbor you've only just gotten to know. The mistake many people make is thinking that at a certain age it's too late to make new friends. But it's not. It's never too late to pick up the phone, send a card, or show up for someone. And sometimes reaching out is all it takes to reopen a door that's been closed for too long. If you're still the one organizing the potluck, remembering birthdays, or just saying, "Let's grab a coffee," you're not just being social, you're keeping your spirit alive. You're doing something powerful for your emotional health, your brain, and your future. And here's a lesson I'll never forget. The people who live the longest, the happiest, and the most meaningful lives are rarely the ones with the most stuff. They're the ones who never stopped caring, never stopped connecting. Now, speaking of caring, there's one more thing that says more about your independence than almost anything else. Let's talk about something that happens quietly in the kitchen but speaks volumes about your health and your strength. Cooking for yourself. Number 6, cooking for yourself. There's something deeply comforting about the smell of food cooking in your own kitchen. The sizzle of onions in the pan, the warmth from the stove, the familiar rhythm of chopping vegetables. It's more than just preparing a meal. It's a quiet way of saying, I still take care of me. I remember visiting my Nana on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. She was 81 then. I expected she'd want to order takeout or heat up something quick. But when I walked in, she was already at the stove, stirring a pot of lentil soup and humming one of those old jazz tunes from the 50s. I asked, why not just take it easy and let me bring you something? And she looked at me with this soft, knowing smile and said, because cooking reminds me that I'm still here, still capable, still in charge of my own life. That moment stuck with me, because cooking is more than just putting food on the table. It's mobility, coordination, memory, independence, all wrapped into one simple act. And studies back it up. A long-term study from Sweden found that older adults who cooked for themselves had a 25% lower risk of developing chronic illnesses like heart disease and diabetes. Why? Because when you cook at home, you're more likely to choose healthier ingredients, control your portions, and avoid the hidden sugars and sodium in processed foods. But here's something I've noticed. A lot of folks stop cooking, not because they can't, but because they think it's not worth it to cook for one. That's a big mistake. Even if it's just for you, you deserve good food, made with care. Cooking also brings back memories. Maybe it's your mom's pot roast recipe, or a pie you used to bake every Thanksgiving. Food carries stories, and cooking lets you relive them, and even pass them on. So whether it's a hearty soup, scrambled eggs, or a fresh salad, if you're still in the kitchen, you're doing something beautiful. You're staying connected to your health, your past, and your sense of self. And here's the truth. It's not about fancy meals or picture-perfect dishes. It's about keeping that flame of independence alive, one meal at a time. Now, when you take a step back and look at all 6 of these abilities, climbing stairs, remembering your lunch, balancing, laughing, staying social, and cooking, they may seem simple, but together, they tell a much bigger story. Let's take a moment to wrap it all together and remind ourselves just how powerful these everyday victories really are. If you've made it this far, thank you. Thank you for giving yourself this moment. Thank you for choosing to care, to reflect, and to honor your health in these quiet but powerful ways. Because here's the truth. You don't need to be young again. You just need the strength, the steady, simple kind, to live each day with purpose, presence, and peace. Climbing a few stairs, remembering yesterday's lunch, balancing, laughing, reaching out to a friend, cooking a warm meal just for you. These are not small things. They are the building blocks of a life well lived. They show the world and yourself that you're still here, still thriving, and still beautifully you. If you're still doing 3 of these 6 things, comment the number 3 below. If you're doing 5 or all 6, go ahead and comment your number proudly. We'd love to celebrate with you. And if you know someone who needs a little encouragement today, please share this video with them. Sometimes a few gentle words are all it takes to make someone feel seen and strong again. From my heart to yours, take good care of yourself. You are deeply valued, deeply loved, and every single step you take toward your well-being matters. See you soon.